Hello and welcome. Good evening. This is Business and the Entrepreneurial Mindset. We are your hosts, Michael Horn and Michelle Weiss. And we know that entrepreneurship has certain connotations for different people. And so we thought we would just sort of kick things off with a quick chat with all of you. And we'd love to ask you all what comes to mind when you think of the words entrepreneur or entrepreneurship. And go ahead and just sort of fill in on the side of the chat and throw your responses in there. So it turns out in a survey from 2022 from Junior Achievement, about 60% of American teens actually said that they would be more interested in starting their own business than having a traditional job. And according to another entrepreneur report, young people are more entrepreneurial than ever, starting twice as many businesses as the baby boomer generation, according to more recent data. And even more astounding, there are over 582 million entrepreneurs in the world who are in the process of starting or running their own business. And Michael, you and I are actually two of those 582 million.
Yeah, we are, Michelle. But today we get to talk with some entrepreneurs who are much more incredible and not us. And they are folks who have built some significant businesses that have contributed a lot of value, frankly, in the lives of individuals, employees, and communities. And we're really, really excited to have both of them. As mentioned at the top, we have Steve Spinelli. He is the 14th president of Babson College. He's a Babson MBA alum, a lifelong entrepreneur. President Spinelli, we'll call him Steve for the show, has spent his career at the intersection of academia, business, and philanthropy. He, of course, co-founded Jiffy Lube International and was chairman and CEO of the American Oil Change Corporation, where he helped pioneer the quick lube industry nationwide and turned Jiffy Lube into the nation's dominant competitor with more than 1,000 service centers. And we have Jamie Siminoff, who, of course, is a lifelong inventor and mission-driven entrepreneur. And Jamie created the world's first Wi-Fi video doorbell while working in his garage in 2011. I love the garage entrepreneurship stories. And that doorbell has gone on to really transform into Ring, a whole home security powerhouse that was acquired by Amazon in 2018. Since his successful exit from Ring, Jamie's been investing in residential, multifamily real estate. He built a company called Honest Days Work, HDW, which enables service providers to be more profitable and deliver the best service to their customers. That, in turn, was acquired by Latch in July in 2023, and Jamie's expected to take over as the CEO soon. And among other ventures, I should say, coffee shops, food businesses, fast casual restaurants connected to farms, and more. And Jamie holds a Bachelor of Science in Entrepreneurship from Babson College. So welcome to CGN, Steve and Jamie.
Thank you. This is a thrill, especially to be here with Jamie, but your whole mission is near and dear to my heart.
Well, we're delighted to have you both. It's going to be a terrific conversation. I'm going to go away in just a moment. We're going to let you have some conversation with the better host, Michelle, and then I will be monitoring the chat and the Q&A function there in Zoom so that we can get some good questions from the audience for you. So Michelle's got a bunch of questions. And then, Michelle, where should the audience members put their questions that I can pick from to ask them when I come back?
Yeah, so for our audience members, if you have questions for either Steve or Jamie, please go ahead and put them in the Q&A part of the sort of sidebar of our Zoom feature here. Try not to put it in the chat just because it can get lost in our discussions. I'm not seeing a whole lot of responses to our initial question around entrepreneur, like what comes to mind when you think of entrepreneurship. So we'll go ahead and switch to a quick poll because I think this may potentially get at the same question. So first, we'd love to know how many of you out there are actually working on a side hustle or some sort of entrepreneurial activity in addition to school or business. You know, it could be things like flipping clothes on Poshmark or creating content on TikTok or even working on an invention. We'd love for you to all kind of chime in here and let us know, yes or no, whether you are actually working on an extra side hustle right now. And then for those of you who would love to elaborate, we'd love to know more. Feel free to throw that in the chat and tell us what some of those side hustles are. So Michael, we lost Michael. It's been taken away from us. But I get the real honor of getting to chat with Steve and Jamie here. And first, I'd love to just kind of kick it off with Jamie. Jamie, you are a lifelong inventor. What were a couple of your first inventions?
Oh, I mean, it goes way back till, I mean, I literally, the first thing I think I worked on was a mousetrap, as ridiculous as that might sound. So I was a humane mousetrap. My dad he did not care about mice. And so we had the one that would flip over and kill them. And so I tried to build a humane mousetrap was probably the first thing. But literally from then on, I was kind of a tinkerer and always, building something, hacking something. When I was at Babson, I had a company called Gadgetronics, a tragically named business that sold, but did better than the name, which sold electronics illegally, probably on campus. I'm not sure if Steve might still be able to get me in trouble for that one. But I was always to the when you ask about side hustle, I love that because I always hustle. Like I can't stop myself from doing that. And I think, there are different types of entrepreneurs, as you talked about. I think mine is probably like I'm kind of a mission-based hustler. Yes.
You were mentioning that before the show, that you are all side hustle, that maybe you're just all hustle.
All hustle.
And now you're obviously best known for Ring, the doorbell that most of us have. It's also the doorbell that has probably ruined Halloween booing for every child, because we now know who has booed us. But I'm wondering, tell us a little bit about when you first recognized this as a big opportunity.
So I was in my garage building other stuff that probably would not have worked, and I couldn't hear the doorbell, and I built this like gigantic, horrible looking thing and put it on my front door. And it was my wife that actually said, like, this is the thing that's best. Like, this is like the thing that I actually think is best. Like, it makes me feel safer at home. And so that was the real aha moment. And invention was not the product; it was what it would do for people. And Ring was all about making neighborhoods safer. And that was I would say that the invention was making neighborhoods safer, not the actual doorbell, which then led to the largest home security company in the world, which it is today.
That's amazing. Steve, can you tell us about your work in co-founding Jiffy Lube International? Did you follow a more traditional or untraditional route into that work?
Boy, thank you. I'm not sure what it means. What is traditional and non-traditional in entrepreneurship is a confused state of being. Jiffy Lube started as a result of me playing Division III football with a football coach who was very entrepreneurial, had made a lot of money in doing a lot of different things, went into coaching, and then saw this mom-pop operation called the Jiffy Lube in Ogden, Utah, and said, geez, they're making a lot of money in Ogden, Utah, where there are virtually no cars. What if we put one in Boston, Massachusetts, or New York City? Imagine what kind of profit we would have. And he gathered 3 or 4 of his players and said, you're tough. I know you're tough. I don't know how smart you are, but I know you're tough. So let's go try to start this thing and build it into a national organization. And let's put a Jiffy Lube in every state in the country, in every city in the world, and let's think big. And that was sort of my introduction to entrepreneurship as not only a career path, but a problem solver and an ability to scale and create wealth.
I just wanted to touch base really quickly, just because we had started off with the poll, and it's really fascinating. The results are that 40% of our audience actually have a side hustle. And we'd love to kind of learn more. That's pretty amazing. So for both you, Jamie and Steve, I would love for us to talk a little bit about mindsets versus skill sets. I think we tend to think that certain people are more inclined to become entrepreneurs. I think we maybe associate people with a high tolerance for risk as being especially good candidates for this kind of work. And so for both of you, what I'm wondering is, to what extent do you think people are naturally inclined toward entrepreneurship, and what are the entrepreneurial skills that you actually have to develop over time?
I think it goes to actually how Steve answered the Jiffy Lube question, which is like, what is a normal entrepreneur? I believe that everybody has entrepreneurial capabilities. The problem is we try to like I'm a bit like passionate, missionary. I make quick decisions. I get myself in trouble with things so I'm that type of entrepreneur. But then there's types of entrepreneurs that, they own a franchise and they're super successful and they're able to build that. And they never took like the risk in terms of, they didn't just like throw it all in and, put it all out there, but they're still successful and impactful and delivering to their customers. So I think there really is, for every type of person, I think there is a entrepreneurial way of thinking, being, and using entrepreneurial skills to be successful.
Jamie is clearly well educated. There is a spectrum of behavior that incorporates the entrepreneurial mindset. It says, I think that there's a problem I can help solve. And if I can help solve that and I can do it in a competitively advantaged way, maybe I'll get paid for that. But I really believe that the world will be better if I solve this problem. And they get driven emotionally and intellectually and physically to go solve that problem. The capabilities may say, I can do one Jiffy Lube or I can create a ring. But along that spectrum, the human condition is aspirational. It wants to better themselves and humanity. I believe that is core to humanity. So if that is core to the human condition, can we surround that with understanding and knowledge and support? That's the educational mission. If we can combine that aspiration with the mission of education, we solve any problem we have. And that's an incredibly exciting place to be. Have one Jiffy Lube or Start Ring. Come on, we can help you. We can help you do something very special in the world.
Yeah, and I think as we talk about sort of this idea of, conventional or unconventional or traditional or non-traditional routes to entrepreneurship, I think the question is sort of more, we hear about all these legendary entrepreneurs who have dropped out of school and started these multi-billion-dollar businesses, whatever the thing may be. And so there's this kind of lore around, kind of learning it by doing. But there's also obviously, a way to cultivate these kinds of learners and entrepreneurs. And so would love for you to kind of talk about how much of this can be learned within a classroom, within a university setting, and where does it maybe need to happen? When is it maybe okay to think about a different route?
I can go off the deep end on this subject, so you have to control me a little bit. My firm belief is that thought without action is frivolous. Action without thought is dangerous. So let me think about this deeply and let me act upon this decisively. If I act, I should learn. Action without some reflection is suboptimal. So even if I am just an actor, and I am very appreciative of those who take action, I will learn from that action, and how will that adjust what I do in the future? So again, the human condition is about learning and acting and acting and learning, and that virtuous cycle builds a capability that becomes inherent in who I am. If my capabilities, Jamie is much brighter, much more energetic than I am. That doesn't mean I can't do something special. He might be able to do something a little more special. Okay, I'm cool with that. The pie can grow almost unlimited to an unlimited proportion. So we'll both eat really well. So let's go out and reach our human potential. And it is through the entrepreneurship paradigm. Babson has spent its entire existence of 103 years believing we can teach people to learn about the entrepreneurial process and about leadership and about problem solving, and wrap that in a business model that can create value from a broad base of stakeholders, both social and economic. And if you do that, the world is a better place, and there is no limit. It is not a limited pie.
And yeah. And I would just like say that I think the fame of entrepreneurship is troubling, because I also meet the people that dropped out that didn't make it. And I think like they're not as fun to interview because they're not doing very well. And so I think like when you find the thing you care about and you go into that thing, however it turns out, at least you worked on something that mattered to you. So if you have something that matters to you so deeply, and while you're in college, you feel like you can't do both, then go do that thing. That's fine. You can always probably go back to college too. Like depending on your situation, you probably go back. So it's like, that's fine. But the problem is when you drop out because you're like, I'm going to drop out because that's what Mark Zuckerberg did. Well, you're not Mark Zuckerberg. And by the way, like, you're not, because Mark Zuckerberg is an individual person. He's a fingerprint. He's unique. Like, I'm unique. Everybody's unique. You're unique. So find, like, it has to be the thing that is coming from you. Like, what do you want to achieve? What do you want to impact? What is the thing you can't sleep at night? And if that's what it is, then follow that. But follow it on your own. And by the way, I think also with entrepreneurship, what gets confused is it's not about owning your own business. It's about being an entrepreneur. That could be in a job. You can still be an entrepreneur in a job. You can still have that same ability to invent and change and impact. In some ways, sometimes people do it even bigger inside of companies than they do on their own.
One of the biggest growing programs at Babson is the Academy for Municipal Innovation. And we teach government employees and government leaders to be more entrepreneurial, to go seek out the problems that are inherent in their communities, find a solution to that, and build a business model that's going to improve the lives of their citizens. The response of the municipal employees is inspiring. They want to be entrepreneurs. They want to solve those problems. They seek those opportunities. They get incredible energy from that. I go to some of the Academy of Municipal Innovation sessions to get inspired by them. I want to do more after hearing their stories.
So for folks, in our audience today who maybe have already a little bit of a side hustle going, or they have young ones or learners who are really interested in spinning something up, what would you recommend to them in terms of looking for in, a 2 or a 4-year program?
I'm going to let Steve start that because he runs a college, but then I'll give you a little bit of what I think.
Yeah, I think there's a combination of a disciplined set of knowledge. Let me tell you, if you come to Babson, we are going to beat financial understanding into your brain. You're going to understand how to read a balance sheet. You're going to understand how to construct a financial operation. You're going to know venture capital. You're going to know an income statement. You're going to know how to do cash flow. And I believe those rudimentary skills are incredibly important. Upon that, we build a sense of what is the nature of opportunity. And if you look at the combination, I think the very best programs are an integration, a transcendence between the disciplined skills and the human emotion and understanding. The soft skills. I don't like the term soft skills because it diminishes the importance, but the human interaction necessary to make that real. We talk about entrepreneurial leadership at Babson. It is all about relationships. And part of what I always emphasize to students is there is more risk in the small business than in a high potential venture. If I have a larger market, I have more opportunity to do things and to make mistakes along the way and survive that experience because there's so much market to get. And if I'm able to inspire a group of people to believe in this vision and to bring their talents, then my chance for success is multifold. And that's an important part of the entrepreneurial process, is thinking about scale, thinking about relationship, and thinking about leadership as in inspiring people who will also inspire you. I got to tell you, and I'm not pandering at all because I'm happy to criticize Jamie. I do it all the time. I can tell you why I thought the ring idea was not a very good idea.
Very true. It's very true.
Yeah, that's right. So, but what he does is he makes you believe that you have some control over your destiny. So if I'm wrong, Jamie says, prove me wrong and I'll go your way. That's a big lesson he taught me. I invite you into this fracas. This is going to be hard work. This is going to be real collisions. And if we can do that with some respect of each other and some belief in each other, we'll solve all the problems. I mean, all the problems. And there's still a lot left. So let's go do it.
Yeah. Jamie?
So, I mean, I think that businesses are definitely an idea to me is like the direction of it. It will change as it goes. The people are the most important thing, which even being at a university or college is also like starting to figure out how to work with people, how to be in a new place with people. So the social aspect of college, I think, is incredibly valuable. And then if you can do a program where if you do want to be an entrepreneur, if you do want to go start a business, to have the skills like business law was probably one of the most important things I learned at Babson. So Babson's an entrepreneurial school. I studied entrepreneurship, but business law was the degree that as an entrepreneur, not having to call my lawyer every time when I was faced with a decision and being able to be armed with the knowledge of what to do allowed me to have quicker judgment and faster decisions still to this day, which I believe has allowed me to be more successful. So some of those fundamental things, as much as you want to say you'll figure it out, learning it is not a terrible idea. Like learning how not to lose all your money and run out of cash is not a terrible thing.
Yeah. No, that's
a book called "Learning It Is Not a Terrible Thing."
Yeah, that's the book. It's my new book.
Yeah, and I think that gets to this question of, how much is, starting up a successful business about the great idea or the great invention itself versus some sort of business acumen, right? Jamie, you had mentioned a lot of other inventions. You're still constantly working on new ideas. I'm just curious, was the success of Ring sort of more on the invention side, or what else had to really come together for it to be successful?
I think if you boil it down, and these are still pretty broad, it was a mission. The mission was the direction. So the mission was to make neighborhoods safer. It wasn't to build cameras. It wasn't to have HD cameras. It wasn't to use plastic PCB boards. The mission was to make neighborhoods safer. And then the people that I brought in, like the team, between the mission and the team, that I do believe created the success. And so if I've seen anything now where when I'm investing or doing something else is I want to know the mission, what drives the entrepreneur, not the product. Because I think that's where people can confuse things. It's not the product. What's the mission? What are you trying to accomplish? And then it's the team. And I think those two things together, Steve mentioned it even about the size of the market. If the size of that mission, like where you're going after, with Latch, we're going after residential real estate, feels pretty big. So we can change and adjust. Like if you're a product, if you're saying, I'm just building a doorbell, that's a small company. If you're trying to solve crime in neighborhoods, you can become the largest home security company in the world, which I did. And I think that's the difference of how we looked at it. And our competitors, I can tell you, every single time they were trying to compete with me on a doorbell to doorbell basis, they never competed with me where I was actually going, which was to solve crime in neighborhoods.
That's so fascinating.
Which broadens your vision of the world. And instead of looking at the world like this, you look at the world like this. And the decision variables change so rapidly, and you become so much more resilient and nimble because of that. And you can do the kinds of pivots that the market demands.
I love that you're both sort of underscoring the real need for human skills, right? These real foundational skills, human to human interaction, how we communicate, how we value our people, how we think about mission and vision to get to some of these bigger questions of scale. But let's talk about failure for a little bit. Because failure is a really important topic. It is an inevitable part of careers and work. Can you each tell us what you learned from failure and how you perceive failure now?
Happy to go ahead. You fail more, so I mean, go ahead. I mean, I just want to,
That's he's right. I hate it when he's right. But the word failure is demonized, and I don't. This is a bit sophomoric, I admit, but I don't think of it as failure. I learned, I adjusted, I made it better. I don't know. I think that's pretty cool. I think that's success. So what is failure? We said, okay, it's got to be 1995 a car. It's got to be 10 minutes. And that's the program. And we did that. We did a lot of cars and we weren't making any money. And we said, well, wait a minute. Maybe it can be 8 minutes. Maybe we should sell air filters. Maybe we have to do something different. Maybe we should have 3 bays instead of 2 bays. Maybe we ought to think more broadly. Maybe. And that's the world. And today, the world demands a flexible mind. So the failure is a lesson that teaches me how to be more successful. So if you don't have any failures, you get stuck in this rut. And I say it all the time. Good enoughness is a curse. If you're doing okay, you get stuck in that mud. And then eventually somebody breaks you down with something dramatically better. If you say, I can't stand good enoughness, I got to push to the next level, I got to aspire to what I mean by greatness, and then keep challenging that statement, you never get satisfied. And so you keep moving. You got a better chance.
And this is why you don't let Steve go first, because I had this whole thing and I've never heard him talk on this. And I was going to be like, no, Steve, you're wrong. This is what, and then it's exactly what he just said. So I almost want to just say something different just to prove him wrong. I will say in my own way, though, I think if you have unachievable goals that are tangible, then that's what you shoot for. That's like your infinite thing that you never achieve. And then if you call something failure, that means that you have to then also decide what success is. And so what I'm saying by the unachievable goal is you never decide that there's any, like making neighborhoods safer. You'll never actually get there. You'll never be 100%. So you're always working on it, which means any setback you have is a learning. I mean, again, it goes to kind of how Steve said it. It's a learning in the process. It is not a failure. Failure would be shutting down. And so I think but like it is the question when I'll be up and say, like, what was your biggest failure at Ring? And I said, there wasn't a failure at Ring. Like the Ring has done amazing. Now we've had a million every day, by the way, like every day was setbacks. Every day was issues. So it's not that you're hitting walls. Those are learnings. Like without those, you don't have anything of success.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one of the things that bothers me the most about education in general, let alone higher education, Dr. Weiss, it would be interesting to hear your reflection on this, is that when we grade people, we mark them down. So the standard is 100, and then I tell you what's wrong. And I think the grading system should be, we mark you up. This is what you learned. And in those mistakes, tell me what you learned. Oh, you get a bonus for that. Could we rethink how we teach people to take chance? What we do in higher education, in education in general, is to teach people not to take chances, to find a safe path to a good grade. Mm-hmm. For me, I want the best path to most learning. Isn't that a different outcome in a more substantial building of the human condition? I want educators to rethink how they interact with their learners.
It goes so against, the ways our structures and our systems are set up, right? But love that you're talking about sort of celebrating the roadblocks and the setbacks. I'm curious what you would recommend for some of our high school listeners here on what they can do to maybe practice that kind of resilience and bounce back a little bit more quickly.
Yeah, expect more from your teachers is the first thing. And I really mean that. You're the customer, and we don't like to do that in education. You're the student, we're the teacher. You learn from us, and the reality is we have a relationship with you, and that relationship creates an obligation, and that obligation is that you absorb units of learning. What is the best way to do that? If I don't talk to you, if I don't understand you as an individual, I can't optimize the amount of learning that you can absorb. So what I tell parents and what I tell students is engage at that level. Your responsibility is to make sure they know who you are and what you need to optimize the amount of learning I can have. You have that right. And I got to tell you, 99.9% of the educators I've talked to love that interaction. They don't like it. They don't appreciate it. They desire it. They yearn for it. Give it to them. The relationship can grow into something very special. Jamie and I have a terrific relationship over about 150 years because we challenge each other. I love him like a son, but he drives me out of my mind. That's okay. He can challenge me. I can challenge him. I went and visited some of his operations. I asked a million questions. I think he was going to throw up after a while. I was so obnoxious about it. It's okay. We built this relationship where we learn and we thrive off of that interaction.
And Steve was actually my professor at Babson. So it's and he was the challenging professor who I asked lots of questions to and went back to, and he didn't coddle me. He gave me real answers. But I would say, I think this is one of the most exciting times in the world, because you can get the information, you can get anything on the internet today, YouTube, whatever. So whatever you're excited about, you can now find the best people in the world have probably done a YouTube or a podcast or an interview or something. And what I say is, don't try to copy them. Don't try to emulate what they are, but learn from them, listen to them. So if you really want to start a business, like how I built this with Guy Raz, incredible. It's like the history of the world is like on, you just listen to it, and you can, and don't try to copy what an entrepreneur did. Listen to them and put it into what you are, your fingerprint, and then be who you want to be. But there's so much out there that you can learn from on your own if you're curious. It's incredible.
It's wonderful. I'm going to bring back my co-host, Michael Horn, because he's been culling some questions from our audience members, and we wanted to make sure we get to some of those. Michael, what are you hearing?
Yeah, I'll share that in a moment, but we're going to flash a poll in just a moment that we would love folks take on, because after watching these two dole out advice, we want to know if folks feel more confident about their ability to start their own business. And we'll give 3 options for that. More, less, or about the same. So we're going to get immediate feedback, Steve and Jamie, on how you've been inspiring and uplifting the confidence. But while people do that, I'll shoot you. We've gotten a few questions. The first one is someone asked, what should high school students be doing to prepare, or what classes should they be taking if they're interested in starting a business? And I think there's 2 dimensions of this, both in high school. You know, are there certain classes that say, hey, if your high school offers this, check it out? Or as they think about choosing a college, what should they be looking at? Steve, why don't you go first, and then Jamie, you can fast follow.
Yeah, creating a facile brain while you're in high school is important. So the diversity of subject matter, I think, is important. I think you should take physics. I hated it. I think you should take it. I think you should take calculus. I hated it. I think you should take calculus. I think you should take history and English. I like those a little better. And I think you should take some business. I think that's probably the least important thing you take in high school. But stretch your brain. Use that muscle. You know, when I was 16 years old, I was obsessed with building biceps and triceps and being stronger. I want you to build frontal lobes, and you can do the exercise to build those frontal lobes, and it is important that you do it. And you don't need to get an A. I got to tell you, when you apply to college, talk about why getting that B was so, or that B minus or that C was so important to you. You will be a unique application, and people will say, wow, that might be a special person. But at the very least, you will stretch that brain and be ready to absorb what the world has to offer you. And it is so much information that the broader your ability to absorb, the better your ability to absorb, the better off you are going to be. So I would ask you to take some early chances with learning. It isn't really a chance. It is a real opportunity, and go for it. And talk to your counselors and your teachers about that. I want to stretch myself. Please help me. I got to tell you, I have found, if you ask 10 teachers that I want to stretch myself, please help me. If 10 don't say yes, call me. I'll call the one that said no and ask them what the hell's going on.
Love it. Jamie.
I was going to say to Steve to cover his ears, but again, he agrees with me, even though he shouldn't. So I think it's what the thing I hate, the thing I get the most upset about when I meet young people that are in high school is that everything they're trying to do is like, I'm trying to get into college. Can I get an internship with you in marketing? Because it would be great on my resume. And I'm like, don't do that. Do the things that you're actually passionate about. Go learn, travel. By the way, travel's not always expensive. Get on a train, on a bus, go somewhere, meet people that you've never met before, meet a group of people, be in a place where it's different than the place that you're in. Do things and Steve said it, stretch your brain. Do things that are going to make you a more rounded person. Do things that your passion. Go get a job doing something in a passion that you have. If you like mechanical things, go be a mechanic. If someone says that's not good on your college resume, have them call me, because that's like, I hate that. Like, we're telling our kids to go do this, like be this homogenous robot because we can pass this resume to a college, versus like be this well-rounded, different, interesting person. And Steve, I think if a kid said I was a mechanic because I was interested in mechanical things, I think you'd love it at Babson, and that would actually stick out of the pile.
Yeah, I'll give him a scholarship. You're exactly right. How do I add a dimension to the world that maybe isn't there in the abundance it needs to be? And I can be that person. It's a wonderful opportunity.
Yeah, I love so much of what you all are saying, and it speaks to, frankly, one of the advantages when you start a business is being distinct and having a distinct value proposition and standing out. And that's true in life for individuals as well, it seems to me. We have a second question that's if it's not about the necessary classes, right? There's not a textbook answer to that. It's more about how it stretches yourself, your development, and so forth. How do you think about the necessary skills for starting a business and how folks in high school can start to develop those? Jamie, you get first crack at this one, and then Steve.
I mean, I love the landscape. Start mowing lawns. Like do the thing, because in mowing lawns, you're going to have to get a Square account, and now you're going to have to try to bill them, or washing cars, but stretch yourself with it. Don't just be like, I'm just going to mow lawns. Like, try to figure out if there's an enterprise grade SaaS platform to use, like learn things through it. And again, even if you get a job, I think this is where, as working in a coffee shop, you're going to see how things are run, and you're going to learn from that. So I would say, do the things that are going to put you in a place to learn from these things. Don't try to just like, I have $1,000. I'm going to invest it in this thing and see if it works. Like, don't take bets, like learn, in my opinion, what you're trying to do.
Yeah. My turn to say that that's the right answer. It is not, the experience is important, but what you learn from the experience and your ability to narrate that learning is incredibly important to how you get into college and what you can seek in college. If I mowed lawns, what did I really learn? I learned that there were lots of different kinds of mechanical interface, and I could use different things, and I could do it better. I learned that customers got really upset if I started at 6 a.m. and woke them up, or if I did it at a different time. What did I learn? How did I use that experience to grow my understanding of the human condition and add exceptional value? That the last time a college counselor heard that was 1943 or something. That people want to make a list, and what we really seek is, tell me about your pattern of growth, because what I want is to help you grow over the 4 years at Babson that will make you such an exceptional human being that you'll change the world. And maybe it'll only be a part of the world, and that's okay, because that's what most of us do. But we can, if I'm confident that that's your objective and that you've built a body and a mind and a spirit that is willing to accept that stretching, God, come on to Babson. Let's go tackle it.
I think what I'm hearing from both of you is this kind of insistence on, it's not necessarily the thing, the product, the what, but you're talking about narrating and telling the story, and also translating what it is you're learning into the language of, another person or a potential customer or a potential employer, whatever the thing may be. And I'm curious, like if we can talk, because I haven't heard either of you really talk about sales and selling and sort of the importance of storytelling. I would love for you to kind of talk about that skill, because what I find fascinating is most business schools, for a professional MBA degree, don't even teach sales. And I'm curious what you've learned along the way about this kind of storytelling mechanism.
Yeah, and you kind of led up to, I'm going to jump in here on this one on Steve, but I always say, I've now lived by, be rewarded for what you do for someone, don't sell them anything. And so at Ring, if people believe that we made their neighborhood safer, and I don't mean believe like we faked them out. I mean, like we actually did all the things that they would then believe that our product would do, that they rewarded us with buying our product. And so I think in every business I'm in, you have to be authentic and be true to the mission, be true to what it is, and then allow yourself to be rewarded by people buying from you. Do not sell to them. I don't think sales tactics are scalable long-term for most businesses.
Yeah, it is about value. It's about delivering something special. We have a brilliant academic here who teaches, Kristen Getchell, Dr. Kristen Getchell, who teaches a course called storytelling. And it is as much to explain what that value proposition is, but it's about connecting with people. And leadership is about one-to-one relationships. Selling is about making a promise and keeping the promise. If I say I'm going to change your oil in 10 minutes and I do it in 9 minutes and 59 seconds, I kept my promise. 10:01, still far better than anyone else in the world. I didn't keep my promise. I got to keep my promise. And if you teach people how to articulate what that promise is and then doggedly adhere to a business model that really delivers it, man, you can just go incredibly far. Although I must say, in the Siminoff family, the real storyteller is Aaron Siminoff. If you see the posters behind him, you were talking about a world-class capability. And
I married up. That's another, like, you guys are a little young that are, listening, but marry up. I guess that's like my other, get someone better than you.
Good life advice. A couple more questions from the audience as we wrap up here. The next one is from Ileana Aguilar. Apologies if I mispronounced your name. And the question is, how do you recommend finding, quote, pains or opportunities? And Steve, you of course spoke about helping municipal employees, right, find opportunities so that they could be entrepreneurial, or learning about what is the nature of opportunity. So I suppose the question for both of you is, how do you go about seeking those opportunities or identifying pain points in people's lives? Steve, you want to lead off?
Yeah. I can tell you there's a significant curriculum at Jiffy. That's funny. At Jiffy too, but at Babson College that is focused on opportunity recognition as a skill, and it is a multidisciplinary, integrated skill of understanding the human condition. And what does the human condition demand from their lives, and do they see value in that demand? It is an amalgamation and synthesis of a lot of different disciplines that says, let me look at the depth of what people really want, and are they willing? The proof of that demand is, are they willing to pay for it? So we believe that you can supply services at a market demand, and if you have a business model that can do that, then it should have a positive margin, and you'll get rewarded for it. And we bring together a curriculum that synthesizes that entire process, and then talks about how you measure it and how you scale it, and that it is not easy, but it is intuitive when informed by the detail and the knowledge and the scholarship and the understanding, can be incredibly rewarding. And I would even say, with scale, at lower risk than most people think. It is one of the hidden advantages of entrepreneurship. If you do it right, you can actually do it with a modified risk profile.
I would add to all of that, that, I think the hardest thing about finding opportunity is that you can see like the end. Like when I was doing Ring, it was like home security. If I said, I'm going to do home security, people are like, that's great. But you can't you can't just go into an entire market. Mm-hmm. So I started with the doorbell. Now, the problem was with the doorbell is at the time is people, including Steve, almost laughed at me saying like, you're going to build a doorbell. Like that's going to be like your legacy is building a doorbell. Looking back now. So again, everyone's laughing, but this is the hard part. It is hard as an entrepreneur to put yourself out there, because most great things are stupid when you figure them out. If they weren't, everyone would be doing them. So the hardest part is like doing something that is like so kind of putting yourself out there to kind of succeed or fail. And when people are saying, and again, Steve he wasn't like totally horrible about it, but he certainly challenged me on it. And a lot of people did, and it was not that obvious. And now looking back, it was probably the most critical thing in home security in the last 50 years. But I was excited and felt it had it, but I also wasn't so confident that I'm like 1,000% is going to work. And like, I don't care what you say. So that's the hard part as an entrepreneur, is like getting through that, especially when something looks so dumb when you're doing it.
Well, you know, it's funny when you remind me, when I told my parents, I was a young man when we started Jiffy Lube, and I told my parents that we had this great idea, we're going to change oil fast. And my mother started crying. She said, the future of this family is now in the hands of a mechanic. Are you kidding me? I have failed as a mother. She said that to me. I still laugh today. Later on, when everything went well, she said, I told you it was going to work. I was just motivating you.
So
fine line between motivation and something else. But so final question as we wrap up, and before I reveal the poll results of how you've impacted people tonight, just reflect on 3 things that high school students interested in being an entrepreneur should be doing now, whether that's in school or frankly outside of school. What are 3 things that high school students interested in being an entrepreneur should be doing now?
Jamie, you're closer in age, certainly.
Yeah, I mean, I would say get a job. So either like whether it's a hustle or a job, I don't care, but do something that's like putting yourself out there, that you feel like some excitement about, whatever that is. I would be listening to podcasts, finding the YouTube masterclass. I mean, there's just so much out there now to do, and then tinker on the side. So like whether that's like, we call that the side hustle, but if it's like selling a t-shirt on eBay, like anything, just do something that you're actually also transacting. And I think if you kind of mix that up with some of the other stuff that, you know, like as Steve was saying, and like just experience the world, like that's part of it. Like, and I think the one that we haven't talked about is it takes time. So like Steve was my professor at Babson. I didn't really make it until I sold Ring in 2018, and I graduated Babson in 1999. Now, like that's, and so it was almost 20 years to like do that. It's a marathon. So it's not about like listen to a podcast and do this, and like hopefully next year you'll sell your company. It's like also think long term, that this is not a quick thing, and if you like what you're doing and you're passionate, you shouldn't care.
You know, one of the things Jamie didn't tell you is, following my little dissertation on why it was a bad idea, I then invested.
and it's his best investment in history. Just, I'm like, not that it matters. Like, I don't care. I am not disappointed with the return of investment. My advice to people is to, what do you care about? You sit down and just have that conversation with yourself. Look in the mirror and say, what, you know, I can't live without this. I can't live without being a part of this. I want so desperately to make this better. I want to be a part of this. I'm desperate. And then start to frame that out. Then be relentless. You got to be committed. I guarantee you're going to get punched in the nose. I guarantee you're going to have failures. I guarantee there's going to be disappointment and a lot of tears. And that is part of the human condition, and that will help you grow. As painful as it is at the moment, you will grow from it. And when you reflect on it, you'll be a stronger person. And in the end, it really is about people. I don't mean to get maudlin about it, but I can't tell you what a joy it is to see Jamie be successful and students like that be successful. It's a capital gain. Listen, I love the money that he made me. God bless you. I have part of my home in Nantucket. I have a little sign up that says, thank you, Ring. I got it. It's great. But to see the impact he's had in the world is just an incredible capital gain.
Love it. So much to soak up from this conversation. More insights just dropped left and right. And I will say, don't ding dong ditch this conversation, because everyone who filled out the poll said that they now feel more confident in starting their own business. So you have had a profound impact, not only tonight, but I suspect for all the high school students, parents, and counselors that are going to watch you. So just terrific. Michelle?
Yeah, thank you both so very much. We have just really, really enjoyed this. We're going to just sort of wrap things up a little bit after you both leave, but thank you for your insights and for the encouragement, and also for your underscoring of what really matters when it comes to entrepreneurship. And we just really value that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's a joy.
Michael, I thought that was
Just terrific stuff.
pretty incredible just because, you know, even though obviously Dr. Spinelli is talking about Babson a lot, and obviously Jamie went to Babson. This isn't about going to Babson for an entrepreneurship degree, right? Or going into business. It's about asking the right questions when you are looking at programs that maybe align to some of the motivations you have now. And I think what both Steve and Jamie were talking about was really make sure you have a good kind of foundation, and that you can go to a place where you can kind of strengthen those foundational skills versus thinking about entrepreneurship as like a way to make money, right? Like it's about the human aspect of things, the people. I just found it just really intriguing, the direction of our conversation.
Yeah, I mean, creating real value, the mission, just tremendous stuff all around. And I just felt like they were dropping wisdom constantly, Michelle, and soaking it up. And frankly, I think it's a set of thoughts that they had that aren't just about being an entrepreneur. It's about picking the college you want. It's not just checking the boxes. It's about finding passion, right? And doing things that are going to enrich your life, going to enrich your own horizons, right? And expand what you can do, not just in saying, gee, I took this class, or gee, I did this, but in what you really get out intrinsically from that experience. I just thought a ton of great points all around. Got me really excited. I'm going to share this with a bunch of folks, Michelle.
I love that Jamie used the word tinker too, just because like I feel like again, to your point, this isn't about business entrepreneurship only. It's about how we actually look at going through life and trying things out and being courageous and exploring new things. It's really about just learning and then applying that new knowledge and seeing where it takes you. It doesn't have to yield a business venture, right? But it's about learning something new about yourself and then translating that learning into sort of your kind of growth and your journey as an individual. Just super, super interesting.
Yeah, and get in the habit now, right? No time better than the present to start building those habits. If you want to start a business, be an entrepreneur, be entrepreneurial in whatever pursuit you end up doing, because once you build the habit, it actually feels less risky over time, with something I took away. And if you're working on something you're passionate about, I mean, what better thing could you be doing with your time, right? And so a lot to like here, Michelle, I think, as we start to close out and think about what the next show is going to be on.
Yeah, so we're going to kind of move from business and entrepreneurship and shift our focus to STEM careers in our next live program, which is going to take place on November 1st. And so look out for details on that soon. And there is a link in the chat for tomorrow night's college program. And we really hope you'll take advantage of that particular show. CGN has also designed a customizable roadmap to college and career that allows students and families to tap into advice from experts like you heard tonight, right when you need it the most. And so there are a couple of links in the chat about that.
And counselors, make sure you sign up for a demo and find out how you can use CGN to help support your students. The roadmap is just a fantastic resource. And parents, we are looking for beta testers, so you can click on that link in the chat to get details and sign up. And then I'll just say, lastly, we hope that you enjoyed tonight's program. A link will be sent out to all who registered. And you will also see a link to a survey. We'd love your feedback. It helps us get better. And dare I say, you'll have a chance to win a $50 Amazon gift card. So not bad at all for supporting the development of the show. Michelle, right?
Yeah. Thank you all so much for joining us, and good night.